Every 40 seconds, someone in America has a stroke, not someone who ignored every warning sign, not someone who lived recklessly. Often, someone who simply didn't know what was quietly building inside their brain for years. Here's what makes this terrifying. Stroke is not just a leading killer in this country. It's the #1 cause of long-term adult disability. People don't just die from strokes. They lose their words, their independence, their identity. But here's the part that should stop you cold. Up to 80% of strokes are completely preventable. So why are they still happening at this rate? Because the habits that actually protect your brain aren't dramatic. They're not expensive. They don't require a prescription. They're quiet, daily, almost invisible routines. The kind that neurologists, the people who spend their careers treating devastated stroke patients, quietly practice themselves every single morning. And today, we're pulling back the curtain on all 7 of them. Stay with me through this entire video, because the last habit we reveal is one that almost nobody talks about publicly, yet the science behind it is genuinely shocking. Neurologists have known about this for years. Most people will never hear it from their own doctor. Let's get into it. Before we get to the habits, I want you to meet someone. His name is Thomas, 66 years old, retired engineer, sharp mind, active lifestyle, annual physicals, the works. His doctor called him a model patient. One Tuesday morning, Thomas was making breakfast. He reached for his coffee mug, and his hand didn't cooperate. He tried to call out to his wife in the next room, and the words wouldn't come. By the time the ambulance arrived, the damage was already spreading through his brain like ink through water. His neurologist would later tell the family something that haunted them for years. The biology that caused this stroke didn't start this morning. It started building years ago, and it could have been interrupted at almost any point along the way. That's the brutal truth about stroke. It doesn't ambush you out of nowhere. It builds, quietly, predictably, and it can be stopped if you know where to intervene. These 7 habits are exactly where you intervene. Habit number 7. Rehydrate your blood before you do anything else. Here's something most people never think about. Every single night while you sleep, your body is losing water. Through your breath, through your skin, through basic biological processes that never stop even when you're unconscious. You wake up every morning in a mild state of dehydration, whether you feel thirsty or not. And here's why that matters for your brain. When your body is low on fluid, your blood literally becomes more concentrated, thicker, more viscous. It flows with more resistance, forces your heart to push harder, and creates conditions in the early morning hours where small clots are significantly more likely to form. Stroke risk is measurably higher in the morning. Dehydration is part of the reason why. Research published in cardiovascular and nutrition journals consistently confirms that proper hydration directly supports healthy blood pressure and optimal circulation. It's not complicated biology, it's foundational. The fix is almost embarrassingly simple. Tonight, before you go to sleep, place a glass of water on your nightstand. Tomorrow morning, before your phone, before your coffee, before a single word is spoken, drink it. 8 to 12 ounces. That's your first protective act of the day. Don't wait until you feel thirsty. By the time thirst signals arrive, your body is already well behind. Get ahead of it. Habit number 6. Give your circulatory system a gentle reboot. Think about what happens to a river when nothing flows through it for hours. It stagnates, sediment settles, flow slows to almost nothing. Your circulatory system operates on a similar principle. After 6 to 8 hours of lying still, blood flow is at its slowest. Your vessels haven't been challenged. Your muscles haven't been activated. Your lymphatic system is barely moving, jumping straight from your bed into the chaos of the morning. Mental stress, rushing, sitting immediately at a screen is a genuine shock to a system that hasn't warmed up yet. But 2 to 10 minutes of gentle movement changes everything. We're not talking about a workout, not even close. Simple neck rotations, slow arm circles, a gentle forward fold reaching toward your feet, a 2-minute walk through your house, even intentional stretching while still in bed. This kind of light morning movement improves blood flow to the brain, reduces arterial stiffness, and, over time, contributes meaningfully to lower blood pressure. The American Heart Association has been consistent on this point for years. It doesn't require intense exercise to protect your cardiovascular system. Distributed, light movement throughout the day carries significant protective power. The morning is simply the best time to set that tone. Start gentle. Start moving. Your brain will notice the difference. Habit number 5. Know your numbers because your body won't tell you. Here's a question worth sitting with. When was the last time you checked your blood pressure at home? Not at the doctor's office, where white coat anxiety can skew the reading. At home, in the morning, in your actual daily conditions. Because hypertension, chronically elevated blood pressure, is the single most powerful risk factor for stroke that exists. Major studies published in journals like The Lancet have confirmed this repeatedly and definitively. It causes more strokes than smoking, more than diabetes, more than high cholesterol, and it produces almost no symptoms whatsoever. That's what makes it so dangerous. Your arteries can be under damaging pressure for years, silently weakening vessel walls, silently accelerating plaque buildup, and you'll feel completely fine, right up until you don't. There's a predictable daily rhythm to blood pressure, and it peaks in the early morning hours, roughly between 6 and 10 a.m., driven by a natural surge of cortisol as your body prepares for the day. For people with underlying hypertension, this morning spike is when the risk is highest. Measuring it takes less than 3 minutes. Invest in a validated digital arm cuff monitor. Each morning, before coffee or medication, after a few minutes of sitting quietly with your arm at heart level, take a reading. Log the date, the time, both numbers, and your pulse. If your readings are frequently sitting above 130/80, that's a conversation to have with your doctor. Above 140/90 Rs, don't wait. That's hypertension, and it needs attention now. Knowledge is the only protection here. You cannot treat what you haven't measured. Habit number 4. Engineer your first meal. Like your brain, depends on it because it does. The first meal you eat each day sets your metabolic tone for the hours that follow. Blood sugar trajectory, insulin response, inflammatory signaling, arterial function, all of it is influenced by what lands on your plate before noon. A breakfast built around refined carbohydrates, added sugars, and processed ingredients triggers a rapid glucose spike, followed by a crash, followed by a stress response in your body that elevates blood pressure and increases systemic inflammation. Do that every morning for years, and you are quietly accelerating the exact biological conditions that lead to stroke. Research published in the British Medical Journal and supported by American Heart Association guidelines points clearly toward the same conclusion. Fiber, quality protein, and healthy fats protect the cardiovascular system. Excess sugar and processed ingredients damage it. What does a brain-protective breakfast actually look like? Oatmeal with berries and a small handful of walnuts. Eggs cooked in olive oil with sliced avocado. Greek yogurt with no added sugar, topped with seeds and fresh fruit. Whole grain toast. And here's something worth knowing. Read the label. If the first ingredient says enriched wheat flour instead of whole wheat flour, it's not what it appears to be. Put it back. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is consistency. Build a breakfast that works for your brain and eat it most mornings. Over months and years, that habit compounds into meaningful protection. Habit number 3, interrupt the stress spiral before it starts. Most people check their phone within the first minute of waking up. Emails, news, social media, notifications that have accumulated overnight, and before your feet have even hit the floor, your nervous system is already in reactive mode. Cortisol elevated, heart rate climbing, mental bandwidth already fragmenting. Chronic psychological stress is not just emotionally exhausting, it is biologically destructive. Sustained elevated cortisol damages arterial walls, drives up blood pressure, destabilizes blood sugar, and promotes inflammation, all of which accelerate stroke risk over time. Research reviewed in JAMA Internal Medicine has confirmed that mindfulness-based practices produce measurable improvements in cardiovascular health markers. Harvard Medical School's research division has documented that controlled breathing techniques can produce meaningful reductions in blood pressure, not metaphorically, but physiologically. 2 minutes. That's all this habit requires. Before your phone, before coffee, before any input from the outside world, sit quietly. Close your eyes, breathe in slowly through your nose for a count of 4. Hold for a moment. Release slowly through your mouth for a count of 6. That's it. No app required, no meditation experience necessary. Just 2 minutes of deliberately down-regulating your nervous system before the world gets its hands on it. It sounds almost too simple to matter. The research says otherwise. Habit number 2, plan your escapes from the chair that's killing you. There's a growing body of research that cardiovascular scientists find genuinely alarming. Prolonged sitting is an independent risk factor for stroke, even in people who exercise regularly. Read that again. Even if you go to the gym, even if you run, even if you're physically fit by most definitions, if you spend the majority of your waking hours seated, your stroke risk is elevated. When you remain seated for extended periods, blood flow in your lower body slows dramatically. Metabolic rate drops. Clot-promoting conditions develop in the legs. Research published in leading cardiovascular journals has been unambiguous. The amount of time you spend sitting is directly associated with increased cardiovascular and stroke risk, and periodic movement breaks, not just a single workout, are what counteract it. Here's the habit. Every morning, before the day pulls you into its current, spend 60 seconds planning your movement breaks. Look at your schedule. Where are the long sedentary stretches? The 3-hour meeting block? The long commute? The afternoon at your desk? Set an alarm. Every 50 to 60 minutes, get up. Walk to another room. Climb a flight of stairs. Do 10 slow squats. Get a glass of water, which also connects back to habit 7. 2 to 3 minutes of movement multiple times across the day fundamentally changes the vascular environment inside your body. Planning it in the morning is what makes it actually happen. Habit number 1, the secret that comes from your mouth. All right, we've arrived at the habit most people will not see coming, and I want to be honest with you. When the research on this first started gaining traction in neurological circles, even many physicians were skeptical. It seemed too disconnected, too indirect, like claiming your shoelaces affect your cholesterol. But the science is now substantial, and it's impossible to ignore. Daily flossing may be one of the most underrated stroke prevention tools in existence. Here's the biological chain reaction that explains why. When your gums are chronically inflamed, a condition called periodontitis that is extraordinarily common and often completely painless, your mouth becomes a persistent source of systemic inflammation. Bacteria from diseased gum tissue enter your bloodstream every single day. These bacteria and the inflammatory proteins they trigger travel through your circulation, accelerate the formation of arterial plaques, and promote the kind of clot-friendly environment where strokes originate. Your mouth, in other words, can be quietly preparing the conditions for a brain event, and you'd never know it because it doesn't hurt. The research that emerged from an American Stroke Association International Stroke Conference study, tracking thousands of adults across multiple decades, produced numbers that genuinely stunned the medical community. People who flossed regularly showed up to 22% lower risk of ischemic stroke and an extraordinary 44% lower risk of cardioembolic stroke, where clots travel from the heart to the brain. Separate meta-analyses published in European neurology journals have confirmed that periodontal disease increases stroke risk by more than 60%. The habit takes 2 minutes. Move the floss carefully along each tooth, guiding it gently just below the gum line. If it bleeds initially, don't interpret that as a reason to stop. Bleeding gums are inflamed gums, and inflamed gums are exactly what need the intervention most. Consistent daily flossing typically resolves that bleeding within a few weeks. 2 minutes. Every day. Your dentist has been telling you this for years, but probably never explained that your brain is part of the reason why. Let's bring this together. 7 habits. None of them require a gym membership. None of them require a prescription. Most of them require less than 2 minutes each. Rehydrate immediately upon waking. Move gently before the day accelerates. Measure your blood pressure regularly. Build a breakfast that protects your arteries. Create 2 minutes of morning calm before stress claims the day. Plan movement breaks to interrupt dangerous sedentary stretches. Floss every single day. Stroke doesn't announce itself. It builds in silence, through years of small biological decisions compounding in the wrong direction. But that same compounding works in reverse. Small, protective habits, repeated consistently, create an environment where stroke has far less room to grow. Thomas's story didn't have to end the way it did, and neither does yours. If this video opened your eyes to even one thing you weren't doing before, that's a win worth sharing. Send this to someone you care about, a parent, a partner, a friend who you know isn't thinking about this yet. Prevention is only powerful when people actually know about it. And if you want to keep going deeper on brain health, cardiovascular protection, and the science of living longer without losing your mind or your independence along the way, subscribe and stay close. There's a lot more coming that you'll want to hear. Your brain built every memory you've ever had, every relationship, every dream you're still working toward. Protect it like it matters. Because it does,